Hi everyone, James here. Welcome to another video. Just a quick discussion topic this morning, something which I've been thinking about of late, and in fact, something that I've thought about a lot through my life, and I was just wondering if other people had similar experiences, and I was curious to hear what other people have to say about it. Really, just the topic of people who don't like music, or people who are not interested in music, people who don't listen to music. Do you know anybody? When I was growing up, my parents, my dad loved music, still does, and he listens to it very seriously. He listens to classical music a lot, and he's got a big collection of CDs. My mum, on the other hand, didn't care about music really. I mean, she used to listen to it to be kind of nice to my dad. She will sit and listen to music with him, but if she lived on her own, she would never put a CD on. She would never think to play any music in the house ever. She would lead a completely musicless life. And in fact, her mother was the same. My maternal grandmother didn't have any ear for music at all. In fact, she used to wind my dad up because she used to. My dad would be listening to music in the living room, and my grandmother would come in with a vacuum cleaner and would start vacuuming around. Because I don't think she even realised there was anything going on. She just, she could hear it obviously, but she didn't. She would never have thought of it as being an activity that my father was engaged in. Listening to music. She didn't have an ear for it. I'm just kind of sat here today. I've got both kids off school, and I was thinking about putting some music on, and then I thought, well, let's just enjoy the silence for a while. And that got me thinking. If I didn't put a CD on, if I didn't put a record on, ever, then there would be no music in this house at all, apart from the music that you get on video games or theme tunes to TV shows. And I always found it very interesting. I mean, people talk about music being a drug, and it makes me kind of wonder. Us, people who listen to music and who feel the need to have music in our lives all the time. I suppose it's very difficult for us to imagine what it must be like to be somebody who doesn't need that, doesn't require it, and is able to go through life without it. I suppose you could say you've got the analogy of religion there, maybe. For somebody who is very religious and is a church goer or whatever, and who prays every night, and for whom God is a very real and living presence in their lives. It must be very difficult for those people to imagine what it must be like to be a non-believer, somebody who doesn't read the Bible and doesn't pray and doesn't go to church. And I suppose from their point of view, people who are non-believers, non-partakers in that, they must lead very blighted lives, really, I suppose, in the perception of the religious people who clearly gain so much spiritual nurture from their religion. I suppose it applies to anything. People who are huge sports fans, I suppose, look around them and think, God, it must be so strange not to support a football team or a baseball team. Or people who do outdoor sports, people who live for mountaineering or whatever, and they just look around and go, how do people who don't go mountaineering cope with life? And I suppose that's the question I'm throwing out there. To what extent is music a kind of coping mechanism, or something which we feel in ourselves that we need? I have a choice here and now whether to put some music on or whether just to get on with my jobs and just tune into the silence of the house. But my instinct is always to surround myself with music and to play music and to listen to music. That's what I've always done. It's what I've always known. And a lot of them, well, I'd say all of the emotional experiences in my life, I can link back to musical experiences. And often it's the musical experiences, when I actually analyse it to myself, it's the musical experiences actually which are the experiences that I have. There's no difference between the musical experience and the emotional experience. I think back to breakups that I've had, and I think back to friendships, and I think back to school days, and pretty much every emotional memory I have, there's a song playing in the background, and when I listen to the song again, or even imagine the song playing in my head, that's how I tap into the emotional reservoirs that exist, for that memory. And if I didn't have, it feels to me as if I didn't have the music, if I didn't have the soundtrack, I kind of almost feel like I wouldn't be able to tap into the emotions, because the emotion was the music. I don't know whether that, if anybody else has that. You know, you kind of think back to a great time or a bad time, and there's music playing, isn't there? And you sort of end up wondering, is the music the emotion? Is the emotion the music? Or do we need music in order to express our emotions, to feel something? Maybe we're all emotionally crippled in some way, and if we didn't have the music, we wouldn't be able to tap into our emotions. I don't know. It's quite a complex topic, really. So just going to throw it out there. Do you know of anybody who doesn't like music and doesn't listen to it? And can you imagine ever being in that predicament? And what's your take on it? I'd love to hear. Thanks. See you soon.